All right, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for being here and hanging out with us. My name is Jess and I'm one of the UCCS admissions counselors. And today we've got a short UCCS 15 minutes or less session on game design and development. So with me here today, I've got Dr. T and he's gonna be telling you all about that. So I'm gonna go ahead, Dr. T, and stop sharing my screen and then I'll let you take over from here.
Okay, great. Hey folks. So I'm going to just jump right into some slides. I'm setting a timer so that I stop talking on or about 10 minutes so that I can answer any questions that you have. So I won't be monitoring the chat as we go along, but we'll get to them. So don't feel like I'm ignoring you. I'm going to share my screen now. And I will Alt tab over to the right place. That's not the right place, but this is. And starting my timer. So, game design and development at UCCS. Here's our main goal. Our main goal is to give our graduates the knowledge and skills that they need to become indie game developers. And I'm going to come back to that in just a minute. But we are part of the Bachelor of Innovation family of degrees. So we are very focused on a business part of game development as well as the technical programming and design stuff. A side effect of having the skills to actually start your own indie game company is that you have game development skills. So you should still be able to go get traditional jobs. And many of our students do. We have our students go work at usually small indie game development companies, but lots of our top graduates just go get regular programming jobs because, you know, programming pays pretty well. So they take the big paycheck and then they build games on the side until they get enough momentum, if they've started a company, to actually give up their day job and make game development their new day job. So we're not, I want to be clear, we're not about getting you graduated and working at a AAA studio, right? You go with, I can't promise you you'll go work it for Bethesda after you're done here. I gotta say, the idea of graduating with a bachelor's degree and going directly into a AAA game company job is kind of like saying, I'm gonna move to Hollywood and be an actor or be an actress, right? It happens for some people, but it's incredibly rare. So we want our students to be ready to go make their own jobs rather than counting on or hoping for an incredibly competitive position at a AAA studio. So who's the faculty in the game design and development degree? I'm Dr. T. I'm the program director and I've been at UCCS for 17 years now. And I started the first game development course 16 and a half years ago. And I was the guy who started our degree back in 2007. I have 5.5 years indie game development experience in a company I started with my two sons, and that was an awesome experience. We were 3 equal members, so my sons could outvote me on business decisions, but I still get along with them just fine. We shut down the company because they, got older and moved on and did other things, but we released multiple commercial games and did some contract work as well. I'm currently doing some game development both in my one-man shop called Burning Teddy and as part of a grant that Dr. Terry Bolt, one of the guys who started the BI, in fact, he was the guy who started the Bachelor of Innovation. He won a grant and we're doing some game development as well. So I have experience doing indie game development. Dr. Dana Wortman has her own game development company and they're working on releasing their first commercial game. So she has lots of experience doing indie game dev as well. And Chris Malik, who is a graduate of our undergraduate program and then got a master's degree in games and media integration here at UCCS. He worked for our company when I had it running with my two sons. He worked for another indie company with some students who formed their own company. So all 3 of the faculty, because we're trying to teach you to be indie game developers, we have experience being indie game developers. So we know the good and the bad in that, and we share all of that with our students. So what does the program look like? There are 10 core GDD classes. Everybody takes these GDD classes. All GDD majors take these GDD classes. We have 5 electives that are either GDD courses or computer science courses. We have the innovation core, and this innovation core and the cross-discipline core, which is the next bullet down, those 2 pieces are because we're part of the Bachelor of Innovation family of degrees. So the innovation core has courses on innovation and entrepreneurship and business law. So, because game developers care about our intellectual property. And so we teach people the stuff they need to have their own company. One of the core parts of that innovation core is you'll take 3 classes that are teams classes. You'll be in a small team working on a real project for a real company, and you work your way up. As a sophomore, you're sort of the grunt labor. I don't want to call you a code monkey, but you might be a code monkey. But by the time you're a senior, you're actually running the team. So you get an experience of sort of running small groups of people by the time you're done. And most indie game companies are a small group of people, so that's really valuable experience for you. There's a cross-discipline core. Most of our students take something called creative communication. So art, music, and then psychology, because there's lots of psychology in games, and other organizational communication kinds of courses. Because again, you're going to run your business, but it's built on creativity. And then general education stuff, you know, writing, reading, writing, arithmetic, that kind of stuff. Okay, the core courses. Here's what they are. I'm going to blast through them. The first one, you use GameMaker Studio. We start off building games using the drag and drop capabilities of GameMaker Studio, and then you start programming in GameMaker Studio. Then the next 3 courses, 1200, 2200, and 2250, are all programming. The first 2 are C# and using the Unity game engine, and then the third one is C++. So at that point, you're moving on to your second programming language. We have game design for diverse populations, because there are underserved populations in the game development domain, and those are market opportunities for indie game developers. Then 2150, 3350, and 3200 is really a 3-course sequence. So in 2150, you're in small teams prototyping different game ideas. By the end of that course, the cohort, the group of students in that class, decides which game you want to move forward with. In CS 3350, you design and you build out that game all the way up to alpha testing, which is internal testing, basically. So 3350 is build that game you all decided on, all as one class, sort of like a small game company. And then 3200, you go from alpha through beta testing all the way to deployment. So those 3 courses are a block of we build a game. 3400, artificial intelligence for games. Almost any game, right, has NPCs, and so you need some AI in there. And finally, the last course, the commercial game development practicum, this is generally in your last semester, and each individual student builds a game by themselves that they have to ship by the end of the semester. They can sell it, they can give it away for free, but they have to make it available to the entire world. GDD talk. So what do we cover, right? So those 10 core courses are probably 70% programming and 30% design and prototyping. The 5 elective courses you take, it depends on what you want to take. We have some art-focused ones, we have some design-focused ones, and we have some programming-focused ones. So you can sort of concentrate in the electives in the area that most interests you. Our art electives, these 4, they're taught by Chris Malik, the guy who came through the GDD program, and he's a fantastic artist. He worked his way, you know, some artists slog their way through the programming parts because they want to develop games so badly and they want to do the art part. And these are opportunities for artists to really sort of scratch that itch. We have a few design electives, so some of you are probably like, story is what the game is all about. So we have a game story and narrative course. We talk about game user interface design, which can be really interesting. How do we convey information to the player in interesting ways, right? Health bars are health bars, but we can do cool stuff. And level design. And then finally, the programming electives. We talk about developing serious games. So serious games are those games that are designed to teach people stuff. So if you want to think of training people, training pilots, that's a great one. Simulations, those are serious games. We talk about game engine design. So some people are fine to just use Unity or Unreal, depending on which electives you take and so on. Other people would really like to know how you build a game engine, and that course covers those ideas. And online game development is an interesting beast. It adds significant complexity. I heard my timer go off, so I'm almost done, and then we'll open it up to questions. So online game development, once we start talking about networking stuff, things can get really interesting. So we talk in that course and we teach you techniques for doing reasonable online games. You can also take, for those 5 elective courses, you can also take any junior or senior level computer science course. So if you're really jazzed about the programming stuff, this is a way to take advantage of that. And I will say, we have a variety of students who major in game design and development and minor in computer science. And it doesn't add any credit hours, it's just selective use of which courses you take. And since I'm talking to prospective students, my last slide is here's how I think about game development. 10% luck, 20% skill, 15% concentrated power of will, 5% pleasure, and 50% pain. And hopefully some of you at least appreciate that. I've got to tell you, the very first time I heard remember the name, I thought, wow, they're talking about game development. They're not, but it really was a pretty interesting thing. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And now I'm raring to go with any questions you guys might have posted. Oh, I see no open questions. Does anyone have any questions? Go ahead and ask them now.
Yes, you guys have that Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen. Feel free to ask any questions for Dr. T here. If you don't have any questions, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate your time. Just as a reminder, our next session starts at 5:30, and that is on the topic of housing. And so you get to hear from some current students about that. Again, that's another 15-minute session. So again, feel free to slide in some questions to our chat here. Otherwise, thank you for coming and have a great rest of your day. All right, Tim, and actually while they may or may not be typing some questions, are there any common questions that you typically get from high school students about this program?
Oh, that's a great question. Good job. I think the most common question people have is, what should I do in high school to make sure I'm ready to hit the ground running when I get here? And I will say, the ways you get ready is be ready for calculus. If I have to pick like one thing, you should be ready to take calculus when you get here. So I know there are lots of folks who are sort of thinking differently about game development, right? I want to come up with the ideas and my minions will implement them for me, and that's not how it works. So math is hugely important in game development. You're going to be in the engineering college, and there are requirements for being in the engineering college. So we can handle it if you show up ready for pre-calculus. We can just make some adjustments in the schedule. But if you're thinking, I'll go do this because I hate math and I'm glad I'm done with beginning algebra, you're thinking wrong, and you're going to have to really buckle down and do the math stuff. Okay. That's probably the most common issue.
All right, that's helpful. And actually kind of bouncing off that, just really quick, a student asked Cameron, when you say be ready to take calculus, are you referring to Calc 1 or Calc 2 or beyond?
So I'm talking about Calc 1. So game design and development majors only need to take Calculus 1 as part of the major. So you don't have to worry about going all the way through, Calc 3 or anything like that.
Perfect. All right. If you guys have any other questions for us, feel free to email us at go@uccs.edu. If they are game design and development related, we can shoot them off to Dr. T for you if you prefer to get his insight on that. So again, thank you all so much for coming. Dr. T, thank you for your time. And we hope to see you soon on the next session at 5:30. Thanks.
Thanks, guys.